I came across FlashDeckAnimations way back when on Newgrounds. DE Assault, I believe, was my entry video, and primarily watched the FD repertoire through the site before FlashDeckAnimations went the unfortunate way of the dodo. Though most of its audience now comes through YouTube, and as such likely only follows FlashDeck through the FD channel. Taking a gander at the channel now, you'll see that the latest upload by FlashDeck was a celebratory subscriber vid, acknowledging the channel's growth to the 100k milestone. To then seemingly completely bugger off. So, what happened? Well, there was actually a very important video that came out after the milestone one, which no doubt many of you are likely aware of. The video leads into the crux of what happened here, which we'll get into in a minute, but before then, know that there is no real drama or falling out what took place. Well, okay, at least not a lot, or any on the part of FlashDeckAnimations itself. There's a degree of hubris, I guess, that could be inferred, but really, in the end, it was just a bunch of stuff that happened, which I found interesting and wanted to go over. It wasn't that shit happened or went down, rather just life happened, so if you're not interested in any of this, short story is, the guy behind FlashDeckAnimations just decided to move on. Now, the video in question was not the same as the other postings. Specifically, it was a teaser video, showcasing the sequel to FlashDeckAnimations' Dust 2. Hackerswrath, as it was to be known, centered around the recently introduced hacker character, as well as tossed in two new trope characters, likely also potential assets for future endeavors. All sounds good so far. However, this also wasn't just a teaser video, it was a marketing video as well, leading to Kickstarter. I'll say this real quickly, especially if you're coming back from the Star Citizen vid, I have nothing against crowdfunding. I do have some problems with what can come of it and where it might lead, but nothing against such community spending itself. Hell, I'd probably partake in it myself if I thought I could get away with it, or really had anything to offer. Yet I don't. In regards to FlashDeckAnimations, I will say that a lot of the general problems many tend to have with such ventures are addressed. The trailer actually presents both the plan and framework. It's not just an idea that's being pitched, there's an actual proof of concept. But more importantly, a demonstration of an ability to actually go forward. This thing gets funded, and most certainly looks like Hackerswrath will see the light of day. Only problem is, it didn't get funded. Indeed, it was rather unsuccessful in a big way. I have a few thoughts on why this was so, most obvious of which is simply time. Dust 2 was around 4 years ago by this point, and FD had put out, well, jack all in the interim between. If you dig through the channel, you'll find some outtakes and little snippets, yet no real content, and most of these small offerings were not even a minute in length and didn't come out in a consistent flow. Yes, Dust 2 had accumulated millions of views, continued to do so, and indeed continues to do so, while the channel was gathering an audience. It really says something and is quite humorous when a channel continues to grow long after the content stopped coming. However, this is indicative of what I think the real and more important problem was. The channel was gathering an audience, yet it was never building up a community. The vast majority of the actual FlashDeck fans likely had no idea about the Kickstarter, either no longer tuning in due to the lack of activity, or having already moved on and were no longer really interested in the series as a whole, those who might have potentially backed the project at any rate. And there's also a very critical element that goes into this, which I believe played the biggest part in the Kickstarter's failing. I think it summed up all in this one question. Do you know who FlashDeckAnimations is? If all you follow or pay attention to is or was the YouTube channel, that is a definitive no. FD had virtually no interactivity with its audience. It had a Facebook presence at the time and a Twitter which was to come a bit later, but as far as its YouTube channel went, and where most of its audience was situated, there was simply no face-to-face time interaction between FD and potential fans. FlashDeck was left without any real identity, and not one any of its watchers at the time could get familiar with anyhow. The main mass of the viewership just didn't really know who this guy was and, in the end, had no reason to really care. Never was there any initiative to try and get people personally vested into the channel. FD more or less just let the work speak for itself, which is understandable. I mean, again, just look at the channel. But still, when that content does stop coming, and the vast majority of watchers left have no idea who you even are, when you start asking them to invest beyond more than a few minutes out of their free time, you will not get very far. Have a gander at the view counts now. Dust 2 has almost 100 million views, yet the rest, while certainly still impressive, don't get me wrong, they don't come anywhere near this amount. The second most viewed video is scarcely even half of what Dust 2 had all those years ago back when the Kickstarter was initiated. Viewers really like that one piece of work, yet not necessarily the content in general. Certainly not enough to put some actual capital into the series to see more. The Kickstarter ended with just under 50 people supporting the project. Pledges reached a little over $1,000, with the goal being $12,869. That's a very precise number, by the way. But why Kickstarter? The other videos didn't need funding, and in fact, the last two videos were as long as the minimum runtime of this pitched full-length episode. There needs to be almost 13 G's ponied up for maybe 4 extra minutes of content, at most. Well, FlashDeckAnimations listed the reasons. I'll save the main one for last. It's the most interesting and contentious. But among other things, FD essentially wished to up the production value a bit more for this one, which would require getting some, or more precisely, hiring some, outside help. Yet again, and something I was asking myself back then, why Kickstarter? Now, what I'm about to get into is entirely supposition, based on what I saw and understood of the happenings going on. It's something I mused about for a while and have a few thoughts on the matter, so take what's to come with a grain of salt. Looking at the number of views this channel was raking in back then, it would seem money shouldn't have been an issue, but that's not necessarily true. FlashDeck came onto the YouTube scene in late 2009. All of those popular Counter-Strike videos were posted on the same day in October, coming over from Newgrounds. I can't say how much FD made off of those postings. You had to get partnered back then, which was a lengthier process and easier said than done. Also, shortly later, YouTube was to start reformatting itself, which saw some people's content getting the short end of the stick. Animators were amongst them. I don't know the exact details of what was going down. If it was just search engine preference or suggested video feeds not showing such videos, that might not have been that big of a problem for FD, even back then. But if it was better paying advertisements or some such going to the booming commentator videos and the like, that would have been a serious problem for FlashDeckAnimations. Also, Dust 2, the golden child itself that spurred all this on, had some serious problems going on behind the scenes, at least one very critical one. Watching the video today, you'll notice over a minute of missing audio. This is no accident. I don't know exactly what happened. I can't find anything on the matter unless it's buried somewhere on the FD Facebook or Twitter, but no doubt, a copyright claim is to blame here. It's hard to tell precisely what the problem was. The start of the music still plays. Perhaps it was some provided instrumentals or some such, but whatever the cause, it's not what matters. What matters is the claim itself, which invariably resulted in money not being made off of the most popular video, either by a flat denial of advertisement or that revenue going to the claiming party. And who knows when this was done. I do note that the video was not like this back when the Kickstarter announcement was made, which, incidentally, was roughly the last time I watched Dust 2. Considering FlashDeckAnimations' rather sporadic and, to be quite frank, non-commitment to the channel, I wouldn't be surprised if this claim had been lingering for all this time, possibly years before the Kickstarter, and played a part in the decision for crowdfunding either due to the apparent lack of revenue from the work or other factors. But that's just a guess. It could very well have been made in more recent times. Whatever the reason, the channel itself was not enough viable support on its own. Back to the funding. Now, the main reasoning behind crowdfunding, as put forth by FlashDeckAnimations, was basically an issue of time. There simply wasn't enough of it to actually work on the project. It's revealed that Dust 2 was only able to be made because FD was in university and had more time to spare for animating on Flash, which is said to have taken 6 months for Dust 2. Now that FD was out of university and working, as an animator no less, There just wasn't enough time to make adequate progress. But how precisely was Kickstarter supposed to circumvent this conundrum? FlashDeckAnimations wanted to quit his job. I had to reread this multiple times when I first saw it, just to ensure I was misinterpreting nothing. It's that baffling a proposition to me. Perhaps it is to you too. I never viewed it as a scam. I did believe that if successful, Hackerswrath would be made, yet I found the proposal woefully misguided. The guy sought to quit his job. His job. This is 4 years after Dust 2. Presumably FD's been working all that time, likely even already building up a career for at least 3 years, and the plan now was to throw all of that in the bin so that a single YouTube video could be made. Not the most responsible of decisions, if I do say so myself. Look, I get it. Anyone spends all day programming and animating, the last thing most would want to do is return home to essentially do more work. Yet, if the channel already wasn't enough to support the dream, what exactly was to happen after Hackerswrath? I do not believe the guy would have been swimming in sweet, sweet YouTube revenue any more than he wasn't already. And remember, this is when animators were really starting to get shafted by YouTube. I often wonder if back then many shared this sentiment, even if they didn't show it, and decided not to support the project because of it. FD had quite a bit he would be losing here, and I suspect a good chunk of his remaining audience saw that. I was a bit shocked that the funding didn't even get at least a third of the way to the goal, considering the numbers that were still getting pulled in. It's all just so very weird, silly, and would have been a very, very poor call to make. I do believe FlashDeck dodged a bullet by not following through on this. Well, I guess actually FD didn't get the chance to pull the trigger in the first place. Regardless, with the Kickstarter unsuccessful, and in no uncertain margin, FlashDeckAnimations refocused efforts elsewhere. Where is he now? Working. Hence the absolute lack of any new content on the channel, as opposed to the paucity before. The FlashDeckAnimation Facebook is dead, but the Twitter is still rolling around. He's made it clear that the channel's not even on the back burner at this point, and anything new to come out will be a long while away, if ever. For now, he still works in animation. His latest posting shows him working on the facial animations for the acclaimed God of War reboot. Pretty cool. This is pretty much a tale of unfortunate yet necessary circumstances get in the way of someone's vision. It's sad that no more FlashDeck animation content is on the way, yet quite possibly it's for the better. I'm most certain I would have enjoyed Hackerswrath, and indeed any more FD videos that might have come out down the line. And that's that.